Hey everyone, just going to give some folks some time to stream in here. Just give me a sec. I want to type something out here. I was just thinking of. There you go. Just sent out a little message there. Oh, I do see that there's already a couple people in the stream. Anyways, it looking. Oh, by the way, another one. My Rumble uh live stream from the last one. Once again, Rumble outperforming big time in comparison to YouTube. So really, really happy that there's some people that have moved over to Rumble and are watching my content, because I know there's a bunch of you folks that still do watch my content on YouTube, and I really do appreciate it. Thank you very much. But it is nice to see that there's probably at least some people who are kind of gravitating back to the content again. I guess maybe they're sick of not just the status quo, but some of those new establishment types that have been soaking up a lot of oxygen in the room, right? So I don't know. I'll be here anyways. Like I say, I'll be here no matter what. Right? I'm in it to win it, and I'm here for the long run. So yeah, I'll be around no matter, like I say, whether I have a high participation rate or high viewer rates. The analytics thing, I don't really pay too much of that stuff anymore. I mean, it does matter to a degree, right? And I definitely don't want to sit here and just talk to myself, right? But I realize that people are just scrambling, trying to get information. And in a way, that's a kind of a good thing. So get perspectives from all different areas of not just the internet, but yeah, out there in that physical realm too. But don't forget about me, folks. Don't forget about me. I'm here, and like I said, I was here long before a lot of these new peeps started standing up, speaking out. But anyways, enough of that. Like I say, as you folks just see, I put in there. I don't know why it showed up twice. I only hit enter once. But anyways, there is no justice. There's just us. Right? I'm sure I got that from somewhere. Not claiming that it's my own original or anything, but I'm sure I must have heard that somewhere. Anyways, let me just while I'm waiting, giving a few minutes here, check out the old Rumble, see how that's working. Oh yeah, that's right too. It's got to do that placeholder video. Rumble, I have to before I set up the live streams, you have to have a placeholder video thing, and then it does that little thing there, and then it starts in the live stream. So what's that take about a minute, I guess. So we're doing that right now as we speak. Oh, actually, I can see the chat over in Rumble too. Let me put something in the chat. I'll do the same as what I did in the old YouTube one. So I guess if I keep this open, I can. I'm going to keep this open. Let me mute this so that maybe I can do some correspondence, some engagement with some of the folks on Rumble, right? I see like it's all set up beautifully there in the chat now. Rumble's doing great. Rumble's doing great. Let me just type this in there. Yeah. Whoops. Yeah. Right on. Right on. Well, that worked out the very best. Admin. Rumble premium user. Ooh, I'm a Rumble premium user. Sweet. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. So now, like, once again, let me check on Odyssey here. Oh, so actually, even Odyssey, I see that the chat's popping up here. So that's a good thing. Might as well put it over there too. Trying to be fair. Whoops. Oh, hi. What? That's weird. I just got a hi back. A bot, perhaps? Not sure. Streamer, and I'm a premium plus. Yes, I am premium. I'm pretty premium over there on the live stream. Reset stream. No, everything's looking good over there. So I guess I'll try leaving these open. Hopefully, it doesn't soak up too much, you know, I don't should be all right in terms of leaving all these open, right? Actually, I'm not hearing sound anymore. Let me just check something here, folks. Oh yeah, okay, we're okay. We're okay. We're okay. I do believe. I do believe I'm okay. Anyways, I'm just going to go real quick into the chat here. See, I do see there's a few folks that have showed up already. Over this is over on the YouTube. On the YouTube. It's not Dave Rubin that calls it the YouTube. The YouTube. Whenever they say anything, all I hear are farting sounds, and I can smell the stank. The stank. Right on, Mad Cat. Thanks for joining the stream. Fuck them. Two big ones right up in the air. I got you. I got you. I got you. I hear you. And even more emojis to emphasize the point. Anyways, like I said, thanks for joining the street, Mad Cat. Mad Cat. Oh, and Christian Delorme. Thank you very much for your donation, Christian Delorme. Really appreciate that. Actually, are you a contributing member? Or a member? Did you choose to be a member? I'm not sure what that little symbol there beside it is, but if you are, thank you very much once again for your membership. If this is just part of the donation, thank you for that as well. Thank you for all you do. Buy yourself a shot, beer, coffee, or juice. Thank you, sir. Yeah, well, it won't be a shot or a beer. I actually gave up the old alcohol, and yeah, apparently it's not even me. It's a thing now. It's like that's the new rebellion. Who was I was listening to? Actually, it was really good. I was listening to an Unheard episode. And what was that? It's like a Australian rocker dude. What the hell was his name again? Unheard. I'm just gonna check this real quick. But he said basically today when he was a kid, Australian rocker. He just liked to piss people off. You know, he's counterculture, right? Where is that? Where is that? No, that's not it. Oh, shoot. Maybe if I just go to if I just go to their YouTube channel, I'll find it. I'll find it. Just give me one sec. Oh, Nick Cave. Nick Cave. And I definitely recommend it. I don't know this guy. I don't know of his music. Seems like he was I believe he mentioned he was 65. So he's a boomer. So I'm assuming he made a lot of his music maybe before I was born, or the fact that he's an Australian rocker kind of dude, right? Counterculture. I don't know. Maybe I just didn't know of the guy, right? But I like how what he answered a question more or less after Freddie Sayers, which is the host, one of the hosts of Unheard, asked him a question like, "Well, what do you do today to be like countercultural or whatever, or to be the rebel, or to piss people off?" As he alluded to, and he said, "Be a conservative." Okay, I get it. First of all, let me fix that up first and foremost. To people that have that kind of binary thinking where you're either left or right, and there's no nuance, or libertarians don't exist, right? Or anarchists or voluntarists or just critical thinkers. I suppose if given the choice, like if you're younger and to be a liberal lefty was your poke in the eye in the establishment, I guess I can understand him making the case that one the others is the opposite side, or at least for these people, it seems like it's the opposite side now. It's conservatives. But I would like to point out to Nick Cave and anyone else that's willing to listen is no, 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 don't go back to suggesting that conservatives are now the new counter culturals or revolutionaries. Please, conservatives, like, come on, no. Libertarians, folks, libertarians were here. Take the moniker. Listen, there's no copyright, there's no trademark, right? Take the moniker of liberty lover, libertarian, use it for yourself and go with that, right? Because I understand if you don't want to be identified as the left now or a progressive, which I totally understand that. But no. Don't even think that conservatives are now going to, pick up that mantle and run with it as now being what? Like, come on, we all know anyways. Like, conservatives are progressives driving the speed limit. Whatever these lefties are doing today, well, the conservatives will do in a couple of years. So if you choose that, you go with conservatives as being your new counterculture, your rebellious act, you'll be sadly disappointed in short order. So no, go with the whole liberty thing, right? And if libertarian still seems a little too soft for you, go with the anarchist label, right? Right? You don't believe in rulers. So yeah, but just yeah, avoid the conservative thing. But but yeah, I did find that somewhat hilarious. But anyways, let me get back to, as you know, folks, I'll be doing a few rants. That has been known to happen from time to time. But anyways, yeah. So what I was getting back to is that's a thing now. I guess even quitting drinking, seemingly almost now it's like that's my little act of rebellion now. Well, plus, it may keep me out of trouble. Right? Been known to get myself in trouble by daring to have a few of those um, brown pops and get on my four wheeler and have a little fun, which basically almost cost me everything. But anyways, I digress. I won't get back into that stuff. But anyway, let me just move on. But thank you once again, Christian DeLorme, for your donation. Really appreciate it. Hey, what's going on, E Sharp? Thank you very kindly for joining the stream. Really appreciate that, Mr. E Gitsy. Hi, Reverend. Hi, Reverend. Yeah, Reverend. I could have worn my white tie. It'd look more apt, right? Not sure if you're even pointing that at me, but anyways. Oh, we got another one here. Conservative, progressive. Exactly. You got it right. Yeah, progressives driving at the speed limit. Exactly. Like, come on. That's what I mean. Especially if you're younger in any way in this country. Like, come on. Forget about all the old establishment. Especially, that's a thing. If you genuinely consider yourself to be a progressive, right? If that's your thing, right? Because and I mean, based on what it should be, like you want humanity to progress in some way. I do too, right? So if you're that kind of person, then freedom, liberty, that's progress. Slavery, indentured servitude, no, that's regressing, right? That's old school, right? And I'll tell you, the old establishment, whether they come from the left or right, yeah, they love to take you back to the old school stuff, but no. Let's like I say, let's progress in some way. So yeah, avoid that nonsense with even trying to get back to the establishment or trying to reclaim some former glory. Because if we lived back then, I mean, that's the thing, that former glory only seems when you compare and contrast. So no doubt, I know this even as when I was a kid growing up. Yes, there were more freedoms when I was growing up than there are today. But if I had the knowledge that I have now and went back to the time when I was younger, right? Would I still consider myself completely free? Probably not. Freer, maybe, but free, no. Maybe more free range, right? But still stuck on the big plantation they call Canada. But anyways, like I say, this pretense that conservatives are like, no, I just know how historians or how that particular narrative will be written. So try to stay away and avoid that as much as you can. Although once again, I'm nothing against conservatives per se, but like I say, things change, right? Things change, and using these terms, it just like I say, it allows too many people. It conjures up many memories and not necessarily good ones. But like I say, at the end of the day, it comes down to perspective. We want liberty. Progress is to bring more freedom, more liberty, right? More sovereignty, right? I mean, think about it. It used to be the only people who were sovereign were kings or queens, right? Well, at least there was some progress made by, the state is sovereign in some way. But, well, what would be the next step past that? Well, it's not just the state that's sovereign. It's how about the jurisdictions within the state are sovereign? Let's call them counties. They should be sovereign. Well, how about small, tiny municipalities within those counties? Well, they should be sovereign. Or the true goal, to be considered a true progressive in the proper sense, anyways. Well, what does that finally lead to? Well, the sovereignty of the individual. Because really, at the end of the day, what does it matter if the state is sovereign? Can you point to the state? No, you can't. There's no human being. It's a concept, right? What really matters in terms of being sovereign and respected and treated as such is the individual, not even group sovereignty. Because really, what is the group? Once again, it's just a concept, which is a representation of a whole lot of individuals. So really, all that matters, or the most important thing that should matter, is the sovereignty of the individual. Now that's progress. And that's what we libertarians, I mean, like I say, we've got, like I say, we've got the formulation all figured out. It's just a matter of getting the message out to enough people, really, in reality. I'm not saying everything is perfected. There's always room for tweaks, right? And that's, as you know, that's why we libertarians constantly butting heads and bickering amongst each other, because we genuinely, sincerely care about these things, and want to make sure we have this stuff figured out before, right? Before, not just playing social experiment games with millions of people's lives. That's what the establishment does, right? Anyways, yes, you will hear the periodic rant from me, Patrick LaBelle. But thanks for rephrasing that, or pointing that out too. I have no right to life. LOL. I differ on that concept. Yeah, me too. Right? I'm with you, Reverend Jim Jones. Oh, that's who the Reverend. Okay, now I get Reverend Jim Jones. Yes, I am totally with you, the Reverend. Totally with you. And actually, since looks like there's a few people in here now. Actually, let me just see if everything's going good. Yeah, everything's still going good on the Rumble and on the old Odyssey. So yeah, let me bring this up then. Let's just dive right into it, shall we? All right. Let's bring her up. But yeah, this. Wow. Okay. Here it is. Here it is, folks. Here it is. So this is CBC. Let me just check and make sure that's all good to go. Yep, it's all good to go. Everything's looking good over on the front. Actually, let me throw on the glasses, folks. I got to tell you, it really makes reading so much easier for me. It really does. I fight it, but Anyways, so this is out of British Columbia. Supreme Court dismisses BC doctor's appeal in challenge over access to private health care. Decision ends Dr. Brian Day's 14-year legal battle to allow patients to go private if wait times are too long. It's reported on April 6, 2023. Okay. Canada's highest court will not hear an appeal from a Vancouver-based physician who has been challenging the healthcare system over access to private care. The Supreme Court of Canada's decision Thursday ends Dr. Brian Day's 14-year legal battle to allow patients access to private care when the public system isn't able to offer timely care. Day, owner of Cambie Surgery Center in Vancouver, claimed that prolonged wait times for medical procedures violate two charter rights, including the right to life, liberty, and security of the person. In a way, it's a very sad day for Canadians, Day told CBC News after the decision was released Thursday morning. Wealthy Canadians have always gone down to the United States for care, but where do middle income and lower income Canadians go? The answer is they're not allowed to go anywhere. They stay and suffer and die on wait lists. So, I mean, just think about this, folks, right? I mean, at the very core, whether it's a written constitution, right? Or like in the British thing where it's just a live constitution kind of deal, or even in such thing as Canada's Charter of Rights and Freedoms, right? I mean, bare minimum, I think most of us would agree. At the bare minimum, you have a right to your life. Bare minimum. I mean, some of those rights, I can hear people, and I've dealt with them over the years, who will argue and bicker how much slavery should be thrust on them, that's already weird, folks. I got to tell you that when I hear people talk like that, especially now that I have this kind of knowledge, it's really weird. It's almost like listening to people talk in different languages when I hear this stuff. But like I say, at bare minimum, of course, you have a right to life. Of course, you have a right to life. But unfortunately, in Canada, right, this is the thing. Government now, instead of God being the ultimate arbiter of morality or ethics or what's right from wrong, is government, which is the antithesis of morality or ethics, because everything government does is immoral and unethical. But once again, people have tricked millions of politicians, the media class, the propagandists have tricked people and the education system into believing that you need rulers, right? But these rulers, and then they even create this pretense that, but we'll have multiple branches of government. This is to have a backstop. We'll have some redundancy so that tyranny can never, sneak in up upon us. That's the point of the executive, which is like the PMOs, right? The Prime Minister's offices in Canada, and the judiciary, like the Supreme Court and the legislature. So they're supposed to be, but as we're seeing today, right? once you get enough people who are ideologically driven and don't have any fundamental respect, and we see the detestation that these people who are the current ruling class, how much they loathe the very pretense that we have inherent inalienable rights. Oh, it just pisses them off. I know when I was going through my court case for my impaired driving charge under mandatory minimums and bringing up the fact that mandatory minimums is completely unconstitutional. Well, you should have saw the look I got from the judge, right? It'd be like the guy, if he it looked like he wanted to jump up out of that fucking chair and fucking wrap his hands around my neck for me even just daring to suggest that I have rights or that, there's something that has a higher authority than him, right? No wonder they fucking have such disdain for God. But anyways, but this pretense that there's all these layers, redundant layers to protect our rights. Well, how are they working out for you, folks? I mean, the Emergency Act was the invocation of the Emergency Act was a blatant violation of all of our fundamental or a substantial portion of our fundamental inherent inalienable rights. But this is another perfect example. This is someone that took it all the way to the Supreme Court. 14 years of this man's life. Can you imagine the headache that you go through or the money, the expenditure, the costs involved of getting this all the way to the Supreme Court, only for the Supreme Court, all these justices to say no? But see, this is what I mean. So this is the thing. So I could just understand. I haven't read the hearing, the transcript of the or the readout of what the judges said, right? But it's basically what they're doing is, and I'm just guessing, I'm speculating here, but pretty good chance I'm bang on, but they're interpreting, because I've heard other people talking this way in this kind of legalese type of languages. They're interpreting the laws written by corrupt politicians and legislatures who have left it at least vaguely enough that it can be interpreted however the current ruling class or judges want to, right? So they're basically saying, well, based on my interpretation of the way the laws are written now, right, is no, sorry, you don't have a right to life. But see, that's the thing. That's a judge that's relying on, right? Right? I don't know, some pretense of maybe some prior precedent or some legislation or some acts that have been introduced rather than that morality. And that was the kind of the whole point, I would imagine, when even in our Charter of Rights and Freedoms, why it even says in there at the very top, right, is the supremacy of God and the rule of law, right? Because the inclusion of God there is not that people, it's not that you have to believe in the magic man in the sky. Like, come on, expand your mind, Canadians. Well, not you folks, but the ones that think that way. Is what that means is, what's the Bible all about? Morality, ethics, right? What that means is the supremacy of ethics, and law has to be and grounded in, if you want to claim to be respectful of people's inherent rights, law has to be based on and grounded in those underlying fucking ethics, that morality. If it doesn't line up with the morality, then fuck the laws, right? I mean, come on. Hitler wrote laws to do a whole lot of bad things to a whole lot of people. Mao wrote laws, had edicts and all to cause a whole lot of harm to a whole lot of people, right? Stalin, I mean, every tin-bot dictator or democratic ruler, right? I mean, if they write laws or rules that gives them or people along their lines this pretense of authority to rule over you, or I mean, slavery was legal, right? I'm sure back in the day, there would have been people that took cases. 100% there were people that took cases to court back in the day, right? Before slavery was ended, where it's like, you should not be able to own another human being. And I'm sure 100% that there were judges at the time saying, well, actually, no. According to here, yep, says right here, folks, you have the right to own slaves. They're your property. I mean, even then, the judge, at least then, I think it would have been pretty simple. I mean, people would have been just hush about it so that they didn't, get their own tan or hides tanned or skinned or hung, right? But even then, anyone would realize, well, this judge is immoral. He's unethical. The strange part about people today is they have this reverence for authority. It's a weird thing. It's something I never grew up with, this thing where younger people in particular have such reverence for authority. That's the whole problem right there, is this belief in authority. I mean, that is at the core. That is the root of the problems we're all facing, to be honest with you. But to suggest that you don't have a right. So your option, basically, this is exactly how this is being played out or laid out right here in this article, as admitted by even the CBC, right? Which I'm sure they would have tried their best to try to spin this in a positive way. And who knows if they don't do this further down in the article. But think about it. Just as it's coming out right now, is basically these judges are saying, no, if your option is, you know, you need, you have, something that you severely need, and if you don't get this surgery or this medical procedure or this intervention very soon, you either could be permanently debilitated or die, right? Well, according to these judges, is in Canada, sorry, under the socialist healthcare system we have and the way that it's set up is, well, you either cross your fingers and hope for the best or you die in that wait list. You have no other options. Well, except for, like it was pointed out here, if you're independent, wealthy, or you can get enough people to put enough money together and you have the ability to get across the border, because that's the other thing, you got to be able to get to the United States too, right? But if you can go to another country, a foreign country such as the US, and you're independently wealthy enough to pay for it out of pocket, yeah, you can do that. But yeah, if you're not in that position, yeah, your options are to, like I say, cross your fingers and hope for the best or die in the wait list. That's pretty much your option. So that's judges in Canada, Supreme Court judges, the very top of all the judges, right? These are the people who are supposed to be able to properly interpret laws and, you would think, ethics, but no, fail miserably in that regard. And to me, I mean, I find that highly, highly disturbing. So yeah, so basically they are basically referencing legislation. I'll just read a little bit here. So the Medicare Protection Act, right? Not you Protection Act. It's the Medicare Protection Act. So protecting the system, right? Prohibits doctors from billing the government for work they do in the public system, while also earning money from private clinics, as well as billing patients on their insurance companies. Day argues these sections are unconstitutional because they prevent patients from accessing private medical treatment when the public system sometimes can't provide timely care, and argued patients have a constitutional right to pay for private care when wait times in the public system are too long. Experts have long argued against private health care in Canada, saying concerns that a two-tiered system would favor patients who are wealthy enough to pay for queue jumping, private insurance, as well as doctors who could bill both the public and private systems. So once again, I mean, in terms of doctors that could bill both the public and private, just separate them. If you're going to go private, you go private. If you're going to go public, go public. Make them pick or choose, whatever. I don't give a shit about that. But once again, listen to this. That saying concern that a two-tier system would favor patients who are wealthy. So what they're saying is, fuck that. If the poor or the middle class can't afford to do it, right, then fuck them all, right? We don't want them wealthy people. We don't want people who have, that's the thing. Did you earn your wealth by producing or providing a product or a service that people wanted and paid for voluntarily? You did. Then if you're wealthy and independent to be able to do that stuff, why should the government prevent you from doing so? Why are governments so resentful? I'll tell you why, because that's what socialists are, folks. That's what these parasites are. They are envious and resentful of others, and they'd rather, like, talk about flatten the curve. They'd rather flatten us all down to the point where, like I say, it's that race to the bottom. That's all they want. They don't just, it's like that tall poppy syndrome that I've talked out in past live streams. In Canada, the reason why a lot of Canadians have to go to the US, like, if you want to become successful, 9 times out of 10, 99 times out of 100, that only happens if you travel to the US, because they have a completely different culture. Now, I get that that's shifted to a substantial degree as well, but it's still fairly healthy down there, right? In terms of, supporting each other and having that capitalist mentality, that entrepreneurial mindset, that all that stuff. But I mean, the fact that they're willing to, like I say, and at this point, they're not even, that's the thing. They're talking about this two-tiered system that would favor, but those wealthy people, as was already pointed out, right? And that's the thing, when you're writing this article, well, there's none of this shit. It's so weird that they can't figure this stuff out. To me, if I was writing this, I'd be like, fuck, now I'm just contradicting myself. The next paragraph down, right? It's like, well, we already know, you already admitted up further that They don't need a two-tier system. They'll just go to the US if you're independently wealthy. So you're not preventing the wealthy in this country from getting what they want. You are definitely, preventing that middle class and those people on the poor end of things. Because that's the thing. Let's say some of the people in the middle class could, maybe scrounge together, maybe save a few checks and probably pay for some. Or that's the thing. It's not even like they'd have to pay out of pocket. There would be health care insurance, right? So it'd be just a monthly premium, which, middle class people could afford, right? But that's the thing. If some middle class people, because this socialist healthcare system is so easily overwhelmed. I mean, in New Brunswick, what was it? Like 100 patients was enough to put us in lockdown. Full lockdown. Because 100 people, and not in one hospital, in all the hospitals in New Brunswick. So if you have that much of a failure of a healthcare system, well, the best thing that could have happened is if some independently wealthy or even some of those middle class people could, use private options. Guess what? Not only does it benefit them, but the public system, that socialist system that you want to impose on the working class and the poor, well, at least they'd free up a little space down there because the middle class and the rich would have somewhere else to some other resources to use. So it would be a net benefit for everybody. Well, except for the establishment, except for those who want to maintain the status quo and have control over your absolute life and whether you live. Because that's the other thing. We didn't even need MAID. Like, MAID is just another example where the government literally, pretends or suggests that they own your ass, right? You have to ask the permission basically to live and to die for the most part, right? Or that's where they want to get us to. Some crazy stuff, folks. Anyways, I'm just going to scoot back into the old chat, see how you folks are doing. I just want to see if anything's going good over on the Rumble. Oh, we do got some stuff going on. Oh, no bot. Well, that was fast then. Oh, that was a fast reply. Thanks for watching the stream. Okay, so Five Eyes is what's killing us. America puts itself at the center of the Commonwealth. Canada, New Zealand, Australia are all the American empire would be a good topic to talk on. Five Eyes, I've actually covered that in the past. Actually, if you want to go through, I don't have all of my library uploaded to Odyssey as of yet, but if you go to my Canadian Libertarian YouTube channel and go to the videos or the live stream section, it might have been just a standalone video if it was an older one. But you could probably type in the Five Eyes, just type in Five Eyes, and you'll probably be able to find something pertaining to that. But I might very well do something relating to that at some point in time in the future, too. So just stay tuned, I guess. Stay tuned is my reply to that. But thanks for joining the stream over there on Odyssey. I really, really do appreciate it. So anyways, I'm going to go to the next one, folks. Stop that. And because there was one other one. I'm not sure if I covered this before. But I did want to just bring this up real quick since we're on the topic of Supreme Court, just to show just how corrupt the Supreme Court is these days. Like I say, there's no justice. There is just us. Yeah. Okay, we're good. So this one was out of the politics section. CBC. Supreme Court restores. Oh, wait a minute. What was it? What else was someone that was saying on I was listening to that just reminded me of something. But if you share something or whatever, then it more or less means that you endorse it or oh, that's what it was. Someone was saying more or less, well, what do you need Nazi or communist paraphernalia or literature or historical, artifacts or something relating to some of these authoritarian collectivist regimes, right? And it's like, well, no, just because I have them doesn't make me out to be one, right? I like to study up about these things and learn about them, right? It's not to promote them, it's to be knowledgeable about them. You know what I mean? Like, I got books on Hitler and Mao and Stalin. I got it all here, man. Doesn't mean I'm a fan. Matter of fact, I really against those authoritarian collectives. Really, as a libertarian, I loathe them, right? I suppose people could say if you went through my web browsing history or the amount of articles I share from CBC, I guess there could some, based on that logic, anyways, I guess some people could make the case that Bennett's the biggest fan of CBC that we've got in Canada. Well, no, it's just that these are the people who are the thought leaders for most Canadians. And yeah, you got to know what they're thinking and report on the kind of stuff. It's to air that dirty laundry. It's to shine a little light on it. It's not because I love them. Like, this is this weird thing, right? It's a weird thing. Oh, I think what I'm referencing there was something that JJ McCullough, he's a Canadian YouTuber. I think it might have been. I shouldn't actually drop names right now because I'm not sure if that's who it was. But anyways, there's someone that was saying something along those lines that if you have, yeah, it might have been him, but more or less like guilt by association or guilt by the fact that you want to learn history. Right? No, I have Sun Tzu's Art of War too, right? Not because I'm planning a war myself anytime soon. Right? It's just, no, you want to know what these warmongers, these hawks, these neocon type people, right? These modern Machiavellians and stuff, right? I got the Prince too. Doesn't make me Machiavellian. You had kind of like know how their brains function, kind of how they think, gives me an idea, right? Might allow me to have a little defense, right? Anyways, let me just continue on with this. Supreme Court. Let's take a little sip actually here real quick, folks. Pop. That's what I drink. Coke Zero. Big Coke Zero fan. Kind of like Elon Musk. Actually, speaking of which, I got that little book set too that Elon Musk got. Pretty cool. The Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights, and the Constitution of the United States. All in one little 3-box set. It's pretty cool. I like it. Supreme Court restores conviction of man whose charter rights were violated in impaired driving case. Unanimous judgment. Unanimous. Not even one holdout. Says even though evidence gathering violated charter, convictions should stand. This is reported by Peter Zimbonjic, March 23rd, 2023. A man who had his charter rights violated when he was arrested for impaired driving has seen his conviction restored after the Supreme Court of Canada ruled Thursday that even though the evidence was unlawfully, it should not be excluded from trial. I got to tell you, folks, historical. I don't know how this has all changed. I really don't, other than political activism on the bench, right? A lot of corruption. A lot of people have been in these positions just far too long, and apparently just don't even care about people's rights or the Constitution anymore, right? Or at least they're not going to interpret it to benefit the actual Constitution, as the way it should be. But basically saying that, yeah, even if it was completely done illegal, we're still going to fuck you over anyway. The case stems from an incident that took place at 12:30 a.m. in March 2016 on Bish Road in Thessalon First Nation Reserve on the northern shores of Lake Huron. Ontario Provincial Police noticed Walker McColeman driving an all-terrain vehicle. Oh, it's an ATV. Oh, that hits home. Ooh, that hits home real hard. From a convenience store parking lot onto a public highway and then onto his parents' driveway. How many fucking people do this? I tell you, folks, if you're anywhere where there's trails and people ride ATVs, you can bet a lot of them out there having a chuggy or two. I shouldn't say that. Hate to throw the peeps under the bus and stuff, but it's not that out of the norm, right? It doesn't make them bad people either, by the way. Ontario Provincial Police noticed Walker McColeman driving an all-terrain vehicle from it. Okay. One of the officers told an Ontario court that they decided to follow McColeman out of the parking lot to conduct a random sobriety test, despite admitting that they observed no signs of intoxication when they began their pursuit. So, right. Not even any justifiable reason. But you remember me reporting on this years ago, folks? If you do, you'll know that, well, the reason why they were able to do this and pull them over, irrespective if they had any actual signs of impairment or an actual legitimate reason, cause for concern, well, the rules, the laws have been rewritten to give police the ability to pull you over, even if they don't suspect you of any crime. Yep. Covered in past videos. Check them out if you want to as well. Like I say, just type in keywords and you'll see, damn, Bennett's right. And he's reported on it before. If we were paying attention to Bennett, we would have been, if these people were paying attention, they would have realized that, yeah, it doesn't matter. Like I say, The rules are basically, they're just arbitrary edicts now. There is no genuine justice. And that's the thing. A lot of people think, well, I'll go through the whole system because, surely based on, I suppose, some of their delusional thinking that there's got to be justice. There used to be justice. So surely there's still justice today. Well, sadly not. And this person had to learn the hard way like everyone else. Uh, the Coleman left the highway, pulled into his parents' driveway, and was approached by police who said they observed obvious signs that he was intoxicated. The Coleman told the officers that he may have consumed as many as 10 beers over the course of the evening. So, anyways, but yeah, so anyways, that's the rest of the details. Like I say, that's the thing. After the fact, like now, when you get to the point where after the fact, and it's like, oh look, even though we had no reasonable suspicion to pull this guy over, but hey, we tossed a coin, and luckily in this situation, right? But that's the thing. You can't after the facts, even if the guy was genuinely intoxicated. That's the point of these laws, is you don't get to just speculate and fuck with people and hope that you were right all along, right? But once again, the Supreme Court has erred on the side of these mindless order followers. Of course, they're circling their wagons, folks. That's really what's happening at the end of the day. The ruling class, all the way from the top, like I say, look at from the Trudeaus, right, and all those other MPs, right, all those corrupt fuckers in the Liberal government and the NDP, and I'm gonna leave conservatives and stuff out, but right now the ones that run the show, the Liberal NDPs, right, but starts all the way top, permeates all the way down. Like I say, the bureaucracy, the judges, the courts themselves, people within the court system, education, everything that government touches, because government is a monopoly of force of violence. And government is, like I say, government is that great big blunt instrument. It's the hammer, right? So everything's got to look like a nail. And that's, like I say, that starts at the top and it works and it permeates its way all the way down through the roots. Trump uses the term deep state. That's applicable. It's applicable. These are unelected bureaucrats. And like I say, it doesn't matter who's necessarily in charge or running the show, whether it's Trudeau or whoever the hell else it is, right? This kind of stuff is still going to happen and take place. So Canadians are tyrannized by not just one level of government. And yeah, you're not voting your way out of this, right? Definitely not. So once again, another example where you don't really have any rights. Not to your life, not to liberty. Definitely not to liberty. Because even if you are drinking, this is the other thing, and people find this controversial. And like I said, I've had more nuanced conversation about it. And I'm not saying that I advocate for it by any stretch. But even if you've had a few beer, let's say in your four-wheeler, like this person or like I did, does that make you a criminal? Well, no, because, historical context for hundreds and hundreds of years at least, everyone, it was quite simple. No matter which side of the political aisle or anywhere in between, everyone at least understood for something to be considered a crime, criminal in nature that comes with criminal punishment, well, there had to be a victim, right? For something to be considered a crime, a criminal act, well, there had to be a victim. And if there's no victim, well, there should be no crime. But once again, these aren't crimes. This person isn't a criminal by sheer fact of having a few drinks and getting on his four-wheeler. But that's the way the system has interpreted things. And that, like I say, that's permeated all down through the culture, all the way down, either through the education system and all the advertisements, especially for bad and stuff, to trick and convince people that, forget about genuine laws of morality or ethics. It's political edicts now. But if those edicts sounds like they get you in the feels, right? And they use the right kind of wording and story or nudging, right? Or propaganda that people are willing to forego even their own fundamental rights. Although most of the time it's like, no, I want their rights gone. Most people don't want their own rights taken away, but they sure as shit want other people to, because once again, they've been programmed and trained to think this person that had a few beer on his four-wheeler, oh, that's a bad person. This is someone that had intention to go out and kill a family of four. That could be my family, right? You know the programming. We're all familiar with it. Anyways, moving on to the next one. Let me just take another quick drink because, this was the big thing, right? But as you folks know, I got lots more in store. I got other things to some more fish to fry. But listen to this. This is great, actually. So the rest of the stuff is probably going to be pertaining to mass immigration. And I'm actually surprised that some folks in the establishment media are actually starting to point some things out that, like I say, I've been doing for a while. Oh no. Shoot. I'm in a different browser, and for some reason, this may not allow me to open this up. Darn, I should have stayed with the other browser. I wanted to try a different browser for my live stream just to see if it would work better. Let me see if I could possibly find it somewhere else. Well, what I could do. Yeah. Bummer. 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 Okay, I'm going to try open it up with a different, yeah. Just give me one sec here, folks. Just give me one sec here, folks, because I did have it open up here. Yeah, this will work. Okay, unfortunately, though, I'm not going to be able to bring this up on the screen, but I'll just read along here for you. Make sure everything's going good. When you folks, if someone doesn't mind, actually, just let me know because I've been keeping an eye on the stream. But has everything been good and smooth, and no drops or glitching? Just let me know because I'm trying to figure out if maybe there's another way I can make my streams work better. Anyway, so this was, like I say, so this is these will all be linked in the description regardless. So this is an opinion piece of the Globe and Mail. Canada's housing and immigration policies are at odds. It's by Steve Lafleur and Joseph Filipowicz. Published yesterday, 14 hours ago. So what was the 10th or so, somewhere around there, 9th, 10th. Steve Lafleur and Jose Filipowicz are policy analysts who research housing and taxation. This article is part of a project they undertook with the Macdonald-Laurier Institute. Housing affordability has metastasized from a Toronto and Vancouver problem to a national crisis. Double-digit rent increases have hit traditionally more affordable communities coast to coast, and the cost of home ownership remains persistently high amid rising interest rates. One of the main reasons for the lack of affordability, according to a recent report, is the misalignment between Canada's different levels of government. Okay, we'll continue on, but there's lots more of that. But anyways, overall, Canada's system of decentralized federalism has served us well. Allowing different levels of government to make decisions that suit their own context is usually the right approach when it comes to program delivery. A century ago, Louis Brandeis, the then a justice in the U.S. Supreme Court, famously referred to states as laboratories for policy experimentation. This holds true for Canadian provinces, and on the whole, the structure is healthy for a medium-sized country spread out over the world's second largest landmass. Many factors have contributed to eroding housing affordability, but the fundamental problem is a growing mismatch between supply and demand. And I mean, supply and demand, folks, is just such a basic, simple concept that most people should really understand. I mean, even in middle school, you should understand this stuff, right? But anyways, while residential construction in Canada has plateaued, falling well short of historic highs, our population is growing faster than any other G7 nation. Canada's population growth averaged 422,000 additional inhabitants per year, July to July, between 2012 and 2022. So every year averaged over 422,000 additional Canadians. Every year, folks, compared with 335,000 annually over the previous decade. So even before that, even the decade before that, there was still 335. That's still sizable numbers, no matter how you look at it. This trend is accelerating with net growth of more than 500,000 inhabitants in 3 of the past 5 years, including a record 703,404 between 2020 and 2022. And you folks know I just did a live stream not long ago. We're actually 2022 for the full year 2022, right? So this is saying between 2020 But for the full year 2022, it was actually 1.05 million if you count all of the different levels of type of immigrants or people who come to this country. It was over 1.05 million people just in that 1 year alone. So think about this, right? Meanwhile, housing completions have stagnated over the past 5 decades. Between 2012 and 2022, an average of 195,000 homes were built annually, down from 199,000 annually the decade before and 229,000 annually during the 1970s, Canada's home building high point. So basically, what this is saying is populations are continuing to grow. And think about the rhetoric that the Trudeau Liberals have used. Well, we need to bring in these immigrants so they'll build the homes, and then they'll build their own homes, so they're not taking other people's jobs. Oh, really? Well, this is according to the actual facts, the actual numbers, right? The raw numbers is suggesting no. Matter of fact, it seems like less and less people are going into construction fields. Yeah, that's a reality, right? And less people are building homes, but more and more people are coming to this country. So, I mean, like simple math here, folks. Even at let's 195. Let's just go with like 200,000, like 199,000 a decade for 195. Let's just say around 200,000. So 200,000 homes are being built, but double and some years up to triple that people are coming to this country. Well, once again, of course, supply and demand. 200,000 people a year or 200,000 homes per year, 500,000 people coming, right? Now, I will point out too, once again, that yes, there are going to be situations or scenarios where there's more than one person in a home. And yes, that's going to be the case. But that would have also been the case. Matter of fact, it would have been even more so the case in those earlier decades. Why? Because as we know, if you look at the demographic trends, historically, like if you go back to the 1970s, the replacement rate was higher than 2. Right. So you were having more than 2 kids, 3, 4. I mean, especially in the 50s and 60s, or let's even go back to them. But, all those decades prior, family households were having more kids than they are now. And more households were having kids than they are now. Right. So, yes. And of course, there are different degrees and all that. But once again, we're still comparing apples to apples. So even back in the 1970s, when you had larger families, right? And they were building more houses. Well, that's another thing too. Think about the prices of those houses back then in the 70s or 80s and 90s. Like I say, I know people that in Toronto bought homes in the 80s even for like 1/10 or 1/20th, or even much more expensive they are going now. So we're seeing a massive glaring divide. And it really does come down to the old law of supply and demand. There's a tremendous, and that's the other thing too. More and more people want to actually live in houses, right? Than rent. That's why even condos became a thing, because people didn't want to just rent. They wanted to at least believe that they were going to own something at the end of the day. And home ownership is definitely a goal. If you went out to talk to Canadians, there's going to be some, but most Canadians you talk to, they're not going to say, yeah, I want to rent for the rest of my life. No, their goal, if they can have it, if they have the option, is home ownership. And more people are looking towards that kind of home ownership. More and more people looking for it, but lesser and lesser units being built. So and once again, mass influx of all these immigrants, but yet housing starts like whether it's government's fault or whatever the reason, or that's the other thing, it still would be government's fault, right? So even if it's bureaucratic red tape that's preventing these houses from being built, and there's home builders saying, listen, we want to build more houses, that could be one thing. But it also could be that government, with all their socialist systems and schemes, are disincentivizing whether it's immigrants or younger Canadians or a whole lot of people from even bothering going into the construction fields or being productive members in terms of like in those blue collar fields, right? Because think about it. Whether you're a boy or a girl today, the dominant message from culture, from society, from thought leaders, and probably even from your parents is most important thing is you got to go to school. Well, in reality, a lot of them are going to find out here soon. Actually, truth of the matter is the most important thing, and you should realize this by now, is no. Keeping the human species going, keeping your family line going, and having people and having kids there for you, you know, when you need them, right? Or multiple generations of people. But that's the thing. People think that education is the end all be all, so you can get some highfalutin job before you can work for some what fucking big asshole crony exec or something, right? Yeah, that's not exactly to me. That's I mean, yeah, we all gotta make bank. We gotta get some coin. But no, that should not be your highest aspiration, man or woman. But yes, and particularly ladies, having children, having a family, trust me, those are dividends that will pay off way more, right? Than your highfalutin job or becoming some corporate exec or being able to get all dressed up and socialize at work, periodically, right? So come on, come on. Which brings us back to Canada's system of governance. Population growth is controlled in large part by the federal government and home building primarily by provincial and local governments. Since the early 90s, well, see, this is the thing. That's why government shouldn't have anything to do with this at all, right? Supply and demand, how that would be easily fixed is through a market. The market would not, like I say, if the actual free market was allowed to flourish, not only would there be enough supply to meet that demand, but there'd be lots of people. I mean, think about how many upstarts and businesses that would have been created as a consequence of doubling and possibly tripling, housing starts or even apartments or condos or whatever the hell. Think about the massive amount of gainful employment. I mean, there would be so many benefits, but once again, that relies on a market solution. And people in government at all levels of government, that means they have to take their hands off of the controls, right? And let the market, let Adam Smith's, the whole let the invisible hand work, right? But no, these are control freaks. You think they're going to let the market play out? No, these are these are busybodies. And we also got to keep in mind there's a whole lot of incentive, especially and particularly for older Canadians, to never let this bubbly, massively inflated housing market crash because, once again, just like I've said before, they're relying on that $2 million house, right? Speculatively, that $2 million house, they're relying on that being their golden goose, their retirement. That's the retirement package is their house. They sell the house and then they're going to go. That's a terrible way to do things, is to use your home as a speculative asset, which, yeah, sure, it might benefit you because you're at the top of the Ponzi scheme, but yeah, your kids and grandkids are the ones that suffer tremendously, right? So there's that. Anyways, I'll read just a little bit more here, folks. Since the early 90s, immigration has replaced net births minus deaths, as Canada's primary driver of population growth. Unlike birth rates, but that's the thing. If you say the Great Replacement, they'd say, "Oh, you're a conspiracy theorist." But I mean, it's right here. It's right here. If the population is only or predominantly growing through immigration and not because of actually people having families, right? Then how does that not work out to be the Great Replacement? How do you not end up with a completely different society if this plays out long enough? Anyways, I digress. Unlike birth rates, which governments can only indirectly influence, like that's a fact. The fucking government shouldn't even be able to. Government's got way too much power, right? Immigration numbers are determined by government policy. For example, Canada's most recent immigration levels plan aims to add 465,000 new permanent residents in 2023, then 485,000 in 2024, and 500,000 in 2025, the highest immigration levels ever. Provincial and local governments, meantime, are tasked with planning for and approving enough housing to keep up with this record population growth. They do so through a series of land use and growth plans, starting at the provincial or regional level and ending with local plans and bylaws governing how much building is permitted to happen and where. Obviously, they're not doing very good. Obviously, they've been failing for decades. But like to pretend that somehow now, what now they're going to fix it, right? Yeah. Just don't hold your breath. Just don't hold your breath, folks. In short, the federal government and to varying extents provinces wield a formidable lever over housing demand, while provinces and municipalities largely control the housing supply. Unfortunately, these two sets of policy levers, immigration policy versus growth planning, are essentially set in isolation of one another. Immigration levels plans, which are updated every year, are partly informed by a series of federal, provincial, territorial agreements. However, none of the current agreements even mention the word housing, Focus instead on concerns such as labor market needs and language requirements. These are important considerations, but newcomers also need places to live. Duh. Meanwhile, provincial and local growth planning takes years to implement and update. For example, the Ontario government updated its 2006 growth plan for the region surrounding Toronto in 2019, again in 2020, giving municipalities until 2022 to adjust their local plans accordingly. However, municipal plans can take years to translate into update zoning bylaws, if at all, and since there is no strict enforcement of growth plans' housing targets, they amount to a best guess as to how communities might grow. Further, I mean, Further, the length of time it takes to create and execute local plans means their population growth assumptions are often outdated before or during their implementation. While immigration levels plans are updated annually, major provincial directives such as Ontario's 2022 target of getting 1.5 million homes built over the next decade are already a step behind. I mean, once again, market is the only solution to this. I mean, Mises, Austrian economist Hayek, this is all like there's nothing new here, folks. Like there is easy solutions to these problems. I mean, like I say, there won't be pain for some people, but there are solutions to these problems. The problem is, like I say, ones who are greatly benefiting from the current setup don't want it to work out that way. Like your Doug Fords and all them, what you think they want their houses, the speculative wealth that they built up in their houses? Do you think they want to lose that, or their buddies or their crony friends? Right? No. So there's no incentive. Whereas a market, yeah, like I say, it's not a one size fits all approach. The market takes into account all of us and incentivizes, first of all, voluntary cooperation and to provide a service when there's a void. That is what the market does. It always has and always will. The problem is people are too quick to listen to like Marxists or professors who have never actually owned a business in their life, or idiots that claim to be economists, right, or experts. They're telling the exact opposite because they're ideologues or they themselves are benefiting from the status quo. Anyways, I'll like I say, that will be linked in the description of the stream as well. Just wanted to see check out a couple more comments here. Top B, statism equal cancer. Yes, statism is cancer. Statism is slavery. Statism is a religion in every sense of the word. I'm with you there. And yeah, cancer for sure, for sure. And yeah, it's permeating through the entire body, the entire culture, right? But thanks for joining the live stream, Maddie Milligram. Really appreciate that. All from India, John 23Z. No, there are a fair amount of people that come from India. As far as where they come from, I believe they are somewhat varied. There's sizable portion. I think I was reading in one article, like there are some like Pakistan and India, obviously Asian countries, Ukraine, what's some other ones? Syria, right? So they're definitely coming from all different places for sure. But yeah, I would imagine that there probably is a sizable portion from India. You're probably right about that, John 23Z. Anyways, so like I said, let me pull up the next article we're going to want to deal with here, and it's along the same lines. Yeah, check this out. Actually, I don't think I covered this in a past one, right? I hope not. I hope not. But I'll just go through it real quick, anyways. Hopefully, this article will stay open. Yeah, we're good. We're good. So let me bring this up. I know I've been leaving the glasses on the whole time. Getting too comfortable with this stuff. Okay. Share. Sharon is Karen. Karen. So this is a Financial Post article. Well, basically a reposting of a Bloomberg article. Bank of Canada, copy and paste. Bank of Canada rate hike hitting immigrants and millennials hard. Boomers, not so much. Well, no shit, Sherlock. Generational wealth gap at root of contrasting experiences. Yeah. I was talking about that. Like I say, you folks, if you just want to search through my past videos and live streams, cover this stuff, many too. And once again, not all boomers. If you're a boomer, listen, don't get mad at me for pointing out a general trueness, right? But once again, doesn't mean all. Doesn't mean all. If you're not one of those boomers, then hey, don't get mad at me. Don't shoot the messenger. But as a general rule, yes, it is the boomers, the older generations. Of course, they're the ones. Listen, when Ponzi scheme starts, the people get earliest in on the Ponzi scheme are the greatest benefactors. That's just the case, folks. Like I say, don't shoot the messenger, right? I'm just relaying the message. This report by Randy Fanthong Knight and Eric Heltzberg. This is April 4th, 2023. Millennials and immigrants are bearing the brunt of the Bank of Canada's aggressive interest rate hikes, but baby boomers who own their homes outright aren't likely to feel the pinch. Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. A generational wealth gap is at the root of the contrasting experiences of these cohorts. The central bank acknowledges the uneven impact of its rate moves and is studying how different segments of the population are faring as it posits hiking cycle. Wow, the fact that these central bankers and folks are the ones that are of that age range demographic, the older, and probably have their houses paid for too, right? So once again, really it comes down to is are the those who benefit from this going to shoot themselves in the proverbial foot? Well, so far from what I'm seeing, even though they're pretending, I mean, the Liberals and the NDP both pretend that they care about younger Canadians so much. Oh, the bleeding heart Liberals and Jag meat. Oh, I love the young people and the poor, right? Oh, yeah, the proletariat and all that. But meanwhile, they're the ones that are supporting making young people suffer tremendously, right? Suffer tremendously. What do they got on offer? Oh, here's $10 a day daycare. Although you're not going to be able to find too many fools out there that's going to do it or play into the scheme. But hey, we'll promise you that. Or Trudeau, here's a couple $100 for groceries. Right. Or what was the other one? Oh, or you can get a few $100s worth of dental work. Once again, those things all, like, think about it, they all just pale so minutely in comparison to, can I have a fucking roof over my head? Can I have a job where my wages actually fucking are high enough that I literally don't have to work day and night just to hopefully save enough for a down payment for a house, right? All that stuff, trust me, is much, much more important than, oh, here, I'm going to steal thousands of dollars from you, but here's a couple $100 back for groceries that I'm going to make even more expensive every month. So you better spend that money real quick because next month is going to get even more expensive, right? So, like I say, it's just ridiculous. Young people in particular, yeah, wait till they get old enough, they realize just how bad the left screwed them over. Because right now they're being told it's them damn conservatives. Don't let them damn conservatives in power because they'll really fuck you over. And I'm not saying they wouldn't, right? I'm not saying they wouldn't. But let me tell you, they'd have to go above and beyond to do a worse job than the lefties, the Liberals, and the NDP together have been doing in terms of causing a lot of pain for young Canadians in particular. Younger generations and recent arrivals are more likely to be carrying heavy debt loads or have taken out large adjustable rate mortgages to finance expensive homes during the COVID-19 real estate boom. Mohita Yodia, 34, is among those now being squeezed, looking to cut expenses and delay major purchases. Conversely, older generations remain mostly unscathed. Many have already paid off their mortgages, the biggest burden for Canadian households, which are the most indebted among the group of 7. Yeah, well, I mean, even myself, now, of course, I have a 100-some-year-old home that I didn't pay a whole lot for, like, 25 years ago. Yeah, mine's paid off, right? But I mean, that's, like I say, so I would definitely be an older generation. Well, I mean, I'm a Gen Xer, but like I say, most Gen Xers of my age who got their mortgages and stuff on these big homes that are and they're still living in the big city, they're still paying off their mortgage. Like I say, I'm just lucky that I bought within my means. You know, like I say, in the sticks in the middle of New Brunswick, and a house that wasn't even worth $100,000. So, you know, a little easier for me. But anyways, let me continue on. Governor Tiff Macklem is counting on a 425 basis point jolt to interest rates delivered in less than a year to slow consumption and rein in soaring inflation. But differences in the impact of the hikes between the two camps are creating uncertainty around how and when the economy will cool. Floating rate mortgage holders and those in historically disadvantaged groups, Indigenous and racialized Canadians, as well as people with disabilities, are more likely to be hit harder by higher rates. Why is it Indigenous, racialized, and people with disabilities? Like, what about just average young people, the working poor? What like it's so weird how most people in the established media. Have you ever noticed this? Most people in the established media, there's two things they seem just to want to avoid like the plague. Gen Xers, as you know, just like with this article, right? You're not going to hear anything about Gen Xers. It's millennials and boomers and immigrants. But as per usual, Gen Xers, it's like we don't even exist, right? Which, in a way, part of it sucks, but in another part, it's like, yeah, just goes to show that we don't need government, right? I'm kind of glad that they don't use the example of Gen Xers because, typically, for the most part, I would imagine we're that generation. Hopefully, anyways, for most of us, I don't need government to get by. Right? Take care of shit on my own. Right? But anyways, um, oh so Gen Xers and like the lowly, the working poor. And I'm not even just talking minimum wage because every once in a while they'll bring up the minimum wage earner. But the minimum wage earner, like that's at the lowest. They might talk about them, periodically just to let them know that at least they're on their minds once in a while. But the other group, like I say, it's genuinely it's the working poor. It's those of us who are actually they're out there working day in and day out, right? And not at minimum wage, but not a whole lot above it. Yeah, and in reality, we're the ones predominantly that are picking up the slack for most of society and keeping things going. But like I say, very rarely ever talked about. I wonder if it's because Gen X actually represents both of those, right? Hmm, that could very well be the case. That could very well be the case that X actually fits into both those categories, which is why both those categories seem to be massively overlooked and ignored. Hmm? Just me thinking out loud, folks. Just me thinking out loud. Macklem's own words before. Did I finish reading all that? No. Okay, one sec here. The difference in the impact of the hikes between the two camps are creating uncertainty around how and when the economy will cool. Floating rate mortgage. Oh, yeah. Central bank survey released Monday showed less wealthy individuals also took a greater hit to their net worth as borrowing costs surged, according to the latest less wealthy individuals. I don't know. Is that starting to count us? Me? I don't know. Macklem's own words before the hiking cycle began, meanwhile, also influenced the behavior of borrowers like Yodia. She and her husband now see the vast majority of their adjustable rate mortgage payments going towards interest, lengthening the amortization period for the Toronto suburban home. I mean, who's to say that these people might have just plain ass spent outside of their right? Spent away outside their means. Who's to say? So don't know how good this particular example is. They moved to Canada's financial capital from Mumbai in September 2020. So here's one of those Indies you were speaking about there. When house prices started rising rapidly as emergency low interest rates spurred demand and amid limited supply, fearing missing out after seeing their immigrant friends getting into the housing market during that run up, they bought their first home in February 2022, spending nearly $1 million on a place an hour away from downtown. So, anyways, folks, like I say, I'll make sure to place this in the description of the stream as well. Thick Beaver. What's going on, Thick Beaver? From what I can see from voting demographic polls, it's mostly boomers and middle aged women who vote left. Yeah. Most younger people don't vote or vote more conservatively. Well, I mean, that could very well be. That could very well be. I mean, the voting conservative, that's the thing. It does seem, and it's a weird thing, like conservative as being the counterculture. Like when the sun's polls, remember there was a thing, or did it happen? Like the polarity shifted the sun. Sometimes I think it like Did everything get switched? Flipped around entirely? Because it really does seem like we're in La La Land these days. Anyways, thanks for chiming in there, Thick Beaver. That's a hilarious username. All right, let me bring out yet again another article. It'll probably be along the same lines. Yeah, here we go. Here we go. Let your younger folks see this. You know, if you got any young Canadians in your household or people that you're talking with on a regular basis, mention this stuff. Show them this article. Here's one for them. Here's one for them to see. Maybe they will start having second thoughts of being big fans of mass immigration, or maybe a lot of them already are kind of against that. By the way, have you noticed that Twitter becomes X Corp? Just noticed this right now on the little thing at the top here of this article. Twitter becomes X Corp as Elon Musk advances to everything app. I don't know what it is with this whole thing with Elon, but first of all, I tend to like the guy a lot. I know he's got a lot of libertarian leanings. He named his son X. He owns SpaceX. He's a big fan of X, right? I don't know what it is with him with X. He's a Gen Xer, right? Of course, so am I. But that's another thing. Like, I was born on November 10th. 10 is my favorite number. It always was. And when I was a kid, it was my favorite number. Of course, not just because of my birthday, but Bennett, my name, weirdly enough, I know what a way to think. But if you take the B out of it, Bennett, what do you end up with? In total, you got 2 E's, 2 N's, and 2 T's. So you get 2 T's, 2 E's, and 2 N's. So 10, right? So there's 10 just seems to be a thing. And what is 10 in Roman numerals? X, right? What's the name of the shop that I ran for all those years when I was really heavy into racing and stuff? I called it Team X Racing. So I don't know what it is. There's some similarities there for sure. Anyways, once again, like I said, folks, I'm kind of one of those guys. I see something, I kind of look over here, but I'm getting back to it. Student housing shortage. So this, once again, Financial Post article reported by Murtaza Hyder and Stephanie Moranis, Special Financial Post. Student housing shortage becomes even more acute with record immigration flows. Record arrival of new immigrants has further fueled demand for rental housing. So here now we got mass immigration that's even affecting student housing shortages, right? Once again, this is having a dramatic effect on a substantial portion of our population. And yet the powers that be, and like I say, there's to be honest with you folks, there's a real easy way to fix this situation. Take the hands off the controls and stop propping up the current system and just let it fall and let it land where it should be, where the market dictates where prices should properly be and reflect reality. Right? And if that happened, like I say, younger people in this country today would be in much better shape. And if you didn't have the central banker out there telling corporations, no, don't give too much of raises because you'll create even more inflation. So keep them raises down. So central banks and government is fucking over young people, Canadians in general, but younger people in particular, in a myriad of ways. But the young people, I don't know if enough of them are astute enough or knowledgeable enough or getting the proper information to realize just how detrimental big government, these left-of governments are for them. Anyways, like I say, I'll put this in the link. So it's basically pointing at the record arrival of more than 1 million new immigrants and non-permanent residents, mostly international students last year, has further fueled the demand for rental housing while the growth in rental supply has been deficient. So basically, it's just going along with the same story, right? Basically similar narrative that mass immigration is massively affecting the housing market and having a dramatic effect, and especially when you're talking about student housing, right? Because that's the other thing. It's not just the mass immigration in terms of just the regular immigration. There's the students that come, international students that come to this country to the tunes of hundreds of thousands every year too. So government policy, like I say, is having a wicked, and of course that help more even for the costs of education. I'll point out, right? There's only so many spots in these schools. I don't see new schools being built all the time either, right? So longer wait lists, and these schools then can raise their tuition fees because lots of demand, less supply. So it's even driving up the cost of the education for the students. So a double whammy to the students just in that area alone. And that's a direct consequence and result of federal government policy. Next. Um, oh, yeah, let me bring this one up because I know some people, especially young people, might not be familiar with this, but I would say don't do it. Don't do it, especially at this late. Like anything this late stage, like I say, if you were in early, even if I knew it was a scheme, I would be honest with you and say, listen, you're just going to screw people over, but hey, you will benefit from it. I would be forthright and on in that regard. But here in this example, I'm just going to tell you anyway, because this is now, like I say, this is at the latter stage of these Ponzi schemes. So yeah, avoid it like the plague. So I'm sure, yeah, you guys can see that there now. It's another one out of Financial Post. Ottawa is offering a 25-year high interest GIC. It's called the Canada Pension Plan. Yeah. Jason Heath, decision on whether to apply for CPP becomes clearer when you think of it as an investment, not income. This report by Jason Heath, April 7, 2023. The recent rise in interest rates has been a blessing for conservative fixed income investors, especially those approaching retirement or already there. Those higher rates, however, come in response to higher inflation, which imposes costs of its own. Retirees can get the best of both worlds by effectively buying a 25-year inflation-protected high-interest rate guaranteed investment certificate, GIC, from the federal government. Surprisingly, most do not take advantage. And good for you, because you know what? Even those corporations, all those big banks that failed, yeah, guess what was on their books, folks, right? A lot of those government bonds and stuff, right? That actually weren't worth shit because of all the changes and how interest rates, when they dropped at the bottom and now they're starting to take off and they end up being underwater. And that's the other thing you got to take into account. Even if they say, let's say, high interest rates. So in this kind of environment, when you talk about like for a long term, a 25-year high, what are they saying? Maybe we'll get that to the bottom. Like, what is the interest rate, right? That to me, that actually, maybe I'll wait till I actually find it if we learn what that interest rate is. So what exactly am I talking about? The Canada Pension Plan retirement pension is a monthly pension paid to Canadians over the age of 60 who contributed from their employment or self-employment earnings during their working years. While many think of CPP as an income stream, I believe envisioning it as an investment account holding a 25-year high interest rate GIC can lead to better decisions in terms of when retirees should elect to start receiving their pension. First, let's look at how CPP works. A 65-year-old generally needs 39 years of maximum contributions to receive the maximum CPP pension at that time. Some situations that may impact the pension amount are working while receiving CPP. Contributions made after age 65, periods of low or no salary, periods of caring for children under the age of 7, periods of disability, pension sharing with or the death of your spouse or common law partner, or a divorce or separation. You can request a CPP statement of contribution from Service Canada to obtain an estimate of your future retirement pension. The earlier you start your CPP retirement pension, as early as age 60, the lower your payments. You may receive the pension sooner, but you trade off a lower monthly payment for life. CPP deferral will increase your pension, but you need to have other income or savings to be able to make that deferral decision. Yeah. The monthly maximum CPP at age 65 is currently $1,307, which is $15,679 per year. So think about it. Go ahead. No matter who you are, how meager you are on your diet and the cost of food and this stuff, could you imagine trying to get by on $1,307 a month or $15,600 per year? Right. However, the average pension is only $811. That's the maximum. That's the maximum, folks. The average pension is actually only $811 a month, which is $9,735 annualized. Imagine a potential applicant turns 65 in 2023 and is entitled to the average pension and defers at age 70. For each month of deferral after age 65, the retiree's pension would increase by 0.07%. That comes to 8.4% per year. All right, you see what they're doing here? Yeah? Oh, you'll get that 8.5. First of all, I'm trying to figure out where they're getting that 8.5 number. Oh, is that point 0.7 times 25? Is that what that is? No. Pension defers, okay. And is entitled to the average pension and defers it to age 70 for each. Oh, for each month, the deferral after age 65. So maybe it's going by month, is it? For each month of deferral after age 65. Sorry, that retiree's pension would increase by 0.0. That comes to 8 point. Oh, so 7, yeah, 7 times 12 is 8.4. 8.4. So they're saying that that comes to 8.4% per year. So month over month, but let's be honest here. So that's annualized, right? So month increase of 0.7%. So not even 1%. Well, what would the inflation rate be under these scenarios, right? Because if it's higher than 0.7% per month, you're actually losing. See, this is the thing that people, and it's weird that they don't talk about this stuff, but if inflation is higher than that, then you actually lose it. Right? Even right now, if you got, let's say someone got a 5% wage increase last year, but inflation averaged out for the year was like, let's say, we know it's much higher, but let's just go with like 10% or whatever, right? And you got a 5% raise. Well, you lost 5% of your purchasing power. Right? You might think you got a raise, and when you look at your paycheck, yes, in actual numbers, in the actual raw numbers, you made an increase and you're now taking home more money. But if you compare how much that money is going to be worth when you go out to spend it over the course of that year, you've actually lost. You've actually lost. So, like I say, don't get into older people. Like I say, the boomers got in earlier on those schemes, and so did the older and silent generation stuff. At this point in time, do what you can to save for a rainy day, but not through government. Do not allow government to be your retirement plan. Because if you do, well, like I say, you don't have to listen to me now, right? You can listen to their experts all you want. I'll be right here waiting to say, hey, I tried to warn you. I tried to warn you. You didn't want to listen. Over the past 30 years, only about 2% of pensioners have started their CBP at age 70. There was a sudden spike in 2021, 2020 and 2021, with 12% of female applicants in 2020 and 10% in 2021 deferring to age 70. For men, it was a similar story with 7% and 11% of male applicants in 2022 begin at age 70. Anyways, folks, these things I know these things can drag on. So, like I say, I'll place this. This will be in the description of the stream as well for the sake of not going too long with it. What are we at? An hour and 27 minutes. Like I say, just pointing out, just giving you a quick rundown on at least a few things. So, what have we learned already? So, you have no right to life. You have no right to liberty. The housing market is just crushing younger people, just crushing the younger people in particular, right? Um, Mass immigration is affecting on multiples of levels, like not just in terms of housing, but education, right? Even transportation and stuff. Because, like I say, there's not huge infrastructure projects taking place, or not a whole lot of them across this country, right? And growth and development is pretty much stagnated at this point because that's the thing. They've painted themselves in the corner. There really, at this point in time, there should be a massive initiative to get people, working, right? Like even under some of those old New Deal things, but they couldn't do it today. Why? Because then inflation would take off. It would soar so high that they would lose complete control. So now they're just micromanaging the economy, right? Constantly, so heavily, which is causing so much pain to so many people, but benefiting those who are benefactors of the status quo. Hey, Anarcha Rika, thanks for joining the stream. Really appreciate that. What's that? An applause or there's something in your hand? What is that? Anyways, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you for joining. Jim McCall, what's going on, Jim? Thanks for joining the stream. The so-called Western nations are failing. Guns, food, and God. Prepare yourself. Death to the WF and NWO. I'm with you, my friend. I am with you, my friend Jim. Yes, yes, yes. Right there with you. Hi, bud. Keep up the work. Thanks, Ron Sear. Really appreciate that. Thanks for joining the stream. I can't help it. I can't help it. I just get a kick out of your username. It's just too funny. Yes, I feel thoroughly fucked over. Thank you. The thick beaver's feeling thoroughly fucked over. Now that's hilarious. That kind of reminds me of a joke. I think it was my uncle Ronnie told me like probably about 20 years ago. But I remember to this day he said, you know what the most controversial thing said on television, I think he said in the 50s or 60s or whatever, is now you'd have to know Leave It to the Beaver, right? But what was it? What's her name? The wife there said, "Gee, Ward, you were kind of rough on the beaver last night, or on the beeve last night." Or something. Your name just kind of made me think of that joke. But thanks for joining the stream, and thanks for everyone checking this out. Let me just see. Like I say, I'll probably tie this one up sooner than what I was thinking. Oh, actually, before I do continue on, or maybe I'll save some of this other stuff. I do have some other really good stuff, but I might, seeing as how this is kind of moving on to, yeah, so other stuff is kind of COVID related. We got the human rights thing there. Yeah, we got Substack that I wanted to read, really good one. Oh, and then there's another thing about Hockey Canada hiring a human rights leader as the first vice president of diversity, equity, inclusion. Like I say, I might save some of that stuff for a future stream, but I did want to point out while I got the chance here. Oh, rough on the beeve. Yeah, that's it, Jim. Yeah. LOL, rough on the beeve. You're a little rough on the beeve last night. But anyways, I did want to say that not only do I support Stefan Molyneux on locals, and I have been doing so for a while now, right? Put my money where my mouth is. I don't have a whole lot, folks, but at least I got a few bucks more now that I'm back, driving and working and doing my thing. So I try to make up for lost time and help people out. And just like you folks that helped me out when I needed, and like I say, I really appreciate any help you folks do give. And but anyways, in addition to supporting him over there on locals, and he still makes some pretty good content. Not a huge fan of the call-in shows, but you can sometimes get some pertinent information, especially if it's a particular story that might resonate with you from a caller. But I also, even though I got, and you can get all of his books online at Free Domain for free. And thank you, Stefan Molyneux, if you ever do get a chance to see this live stream or any of my other ones, like really appreciate all that you've done over the years. You're a great man, and I have a lot of admiration and respect for you. But I also wanted to make sure to have an actual, I got an actual physical copy now. There we go. Every day. It's a little bright there, isn't it? A little rough there. Anyways, Everyday Anarchy, the Freedom of Now by Stefan Molyneux. And I'm really looking forward to reading it, although I already feel like I have, but to actually read it in the physical copy would be great. Now I bought a whole bunch more, but these two in particular, I just wanted to. And with Easter just going by, right? And shout out to all my fellow Christians out there as well. Hope y'all had a great Easter weekend. I know I did. I had a great time with my family, with the kids and their girlfriends, and even he couldn't stay till Sunday. But my stepdad, he was even down for the weekend with his new lady, and like I say, it was a really good weekend for us. Anyways, but then there was this one. I'm kind of looking forward to reading this. Let me make sure if you folks can see this here. There we go. Wait. The kingdom of God is within you. Yeah, you can see that, right? Yeah, the kingdom of God is within you, and this is by Leo Tosley. So I'm really looking to that because I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of very useful information from that. And like I say, I even got another one over here. This one here I bought in regards to the Peloponnesian War. Because once again, understand history. History doesn't exactly repeat, but it definitely rhymes, as you know, you folks have probably heard said many times before. But basically, the Peloponnesian War, I'll be able to explain it much better once I've read the book. It's a big one. It's like 700 and some pages long. Anyways, basically, the Athenians versus the Spartans, right, is basically the setup for that particular story. And this particular copy of the book, there's a whole lot of them out there, but this particular example, this by this particular publisher, also includes maps. Because as a guy, I'm quite visual in nature, so I want to be able to not just learn the history, but I want to visualize, like, what are they talking about on this map, so I can get more of that visual representation. But I'm looking forward to that because I guess it's basically the same idea in terms of progressives and conservatives. So I guess at that time, I could be wrong here, and I'll I'll get that all clarified once I read the book. But just initially, I'm thinking so the Athenians, so what, like the aristocrat types, so like the progressives of the day. I'm thinking, anyways, right? Possibly. And then the Spartans, which would have been your, your conservative types, right? The rural dwelling types or something like that. And there was a lot of conflict between the two. So I just kind of want to get some of that. So like have a little bit better understanding of not just the politics and the philosophical concepts, but the demographics and the divide. Like, what was this all about? What were these conflicts? What did they entail? And what was the underlying reasoning behind them? So, like I say, definitely, I'm becoming definitely more and more of a book kind of a guy these days, right? I guess I'm getting nerdier as I get older. I tell you, folks, if you knew me 15, 20 years ago before I started getting into all this stuff, I would almost be unrecognizable. I am literally like your typically blue collar, you know, work hard, play hard, like rocking wheelies on a street bike or my four wheeler or drag racing my car, like just a hardcore kind of a guy. And yeah, when in my younger years, I was known to have a little bit of a partying streak to me, right? So I guess that kind of comes with age too. Right? Things do definitely change. I've kind of calmed down a little bit, a little bit. I'll tell you one thing though that has never gone. I didn't understand this when I was a kid, but I still have this instinctive, rebellious nature towards arbitrary authority. I respect leaders, but I've always had issues. It's always been part of me I just arbitrary authority. Well, I think it was because I was always smart enough to realize the contradictions and hypocrisy and how arbitrary in nature it really is, and it really kind of irked me. That part still in me, and it's just as strong as ever. And hopefully, it stays that way for the rest of my life. And I'm sure many of you folks are the same. So, anyways, thank you, folks. Like I say, I'm going to tie this live stream up. Really appreciate everyone that's joined this stream. Make sure if you wouldn't mind, actually, let some other people know about my live stream. Maybe we can get some more people engaged. And I will actually, let me point this out before I let you folks go too, is I was reaching out to Tim Mullen. Tim Mullen, by the jumping, he's been on a roll with some of his videos. Check out the Tim Mullen show if you haven't already. He's got, I don't know what, 17, 18, maybe more of that up there now. Actually, I think it's more of that now. But man, one of the last ones he did, he was just on a tear. And it was, what was it? PPC versus libertarians or something, right? Or CPC. Anyways, you check it out. You'll check it out. You'll see. And he was just on a roll and he made so many great points. And you know what? It got me to thinking, we libertarians, this might be our chance. I don't know. Like I say, politics is definitely downstream of culture. I'm not saying that there's a political solution yet, but this is the time. So I reached out to him, and because I now can do webinars and host lots of people on my live streams because I pay for the pro package now, I want to get at least a half a dozen. That's kind of my base threshold. I want at least a half a dozen, and I know I won't have too many problems. Hopefully, like Keith McIntyre, leader of Libertarian Party. I believe Keith's still in the leadership position. You got Mark Snow. I'm not sure if Mark is still the leader of the Ontario Libertarian Party. Like I say, Tim Mullen, former leader of the Federal Libertarian Party. And there's a bunch of other guys, and even just like other people in the Libertarian Party. So, even a couple of former PPCs like Mitchell, that I'll reach out to probably. And like I say, I want to have a conversation, and let's actually sit like about half a dozen of us. You get 6 libertarians together with the ideas that they can churn out. I think that could be first of all, engaging and entertaining, but very informative experience. So like I say, let's talk strategy, folks. What are we going to do here? Because he's got his kind of little initiative with his men's group thing. I'm doing my little thing here and helping with Mark with the New Brunswick Free Project and stuff, right? But yeah, what are we going to do as libertarians? Even like, let's talk strategy. What can we do, right? What else can we do? And that's something, like I say, I want to get about a half a dozen of us together. I imagine by the time I round up all those libertarians and get them together all in one stream, because we libertarians like herding cats, right? It might take me a week or two, folks, but I'm going to make it happen. I guarantee it. I'm going to make it happen. And I'm pretty sure it will be, quite, like I say, engaging and informative at the same time. So, thanks for all you folks that joined the live stream. Like I say, have yourself a great day and the rest of the week and the weekend when you get to it. It's finally nice over here on the East Coast. Hope it is in the rest of Canada. It's Canadian Libertarian.